Tenzi here. For this cardigan, I'm using a medium 4-weight yarn, and the recommended crochet hook is 5.5 millimeters, but I'm using a 5 millimeter crochet hook so I can get that gauge. It is a 97% acrylic yarn with 3% of other fiber, which is that sparkle here in the yarn. I hope it shows on camera, but there is a little sheen and little sparkle that peeks through. It is in the color Sweet Violet, a little lavender color, and it's machine washable. Do not bleach, do not tumble dry, late flat to dry, do not iron, and do not dry clean. And let's get started. So let's start with a slip knot. Wrap it around your hook and chain 6. We'll make a ring, so do not make that first chain too tight, so you can be able to go inside that first chain, draw a loop, and pull that loop through the both loops you have on your hook and the first chain. Hold your tail behind that ring so you can trap it inside and you don't have to weave it in. Chain 2 and a double crochet into the ring, and one more double crochet into the ring, and a double crochet is yarn over, go through your ring, pull a loop, and now you have 3 loops on your hook. Pull, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the next 2 loops. And now you have 3 stitches in your ring. The first chain we will count as a stitch, so you have 3 double crochets on your ring. So chain 1 and do 3 more double crochets into the same ring. We'll keep repeating the group of 3 double crochets and a chain till we reach the beginning again for a total of 6 groups of 3 double crochets. Alright, so here we have those 6 groups of 3 double crochets and a chain in between. It means we also have 6 spaces, so we will be working in those 6 spaces in each round. So we'll go back to the first chain and we will do a slip stitch. So we'll pull that loop through the loop on our hook, and now we have that first loop here, which we will move with slip stitches up to that first chain space. So into the next stitch, grab the 2 strands on top, draw a loop, and then pull that loop through your loop on your hook. So go into that space with the slip stitch, and now you're there, and you can start your first double crochet, which is actually the chain, but we will count this chain as a double crochet, and we will crochet 2 more double crochets. So here is our first granny cluster. We have 3 double crochets, a chain, and 3 more double crochets into the same chain space. We will go into the next chain space just like that, no chains in between. The chains will be only in the corners. So we are doing our 6 corners here. So another 3 double crochets, a space, a chain space here, chain, and 3 more double crochets. 2, 3. And we are going into the next chain space, and we do again 2 granny clusters with 1 chain in between. And I'll meet you when we fill all these spaces. We will have 6 corners actually, because we need a hexagon. So back at the beginning again. So now I have my 6 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From now on, we'll be working each corner with 2 granny clusters and a chain in between. And in between the corners, all other spaces will just have 3 double crochets. So before we get to the next corner, we'll do a slip stitch into that chain. And in order to move to that corner, we'll do slip stitches into the next stitch, and then slip stitch into the space. And now you have invisible transition into that next corner. Chain 2, and we do again 2 granny clusters, or a group of 3 double crochets, with a chain in between. So chain here and do the next granny cluster in the same space. So now in the space between the corners, we will do just 3 double crochets. There are no chains here in my version. So now we're going to keep repeating a corner, and in the space between the corners, a group of 3 double crochets. And I'll meet you again at the end when I'm done with all these corners and the spaces in between. Back at the beginning again, we'll get a slip stitch through the chain, then through the next stitch, and then back into that space in the corner. Chain 2 and start with the new granny clusters. When we get to the next space between each corner, you're gonna see 2 holes here on both sides of your granny clusters. So in those spaces, you're gonna be having the next granny cluster. So there, in this space, we will have 3 double crochets. And then we will just move to the next opening here with 3 double crochets. There are no chains. The chains are only in the corners between the 2 granny clusters. And here again into the next corner. And that's how we're gonna go from now on in each round. Keep repeating that till the end of the round, and for the rest of the cardigan, you just keep working in those spaces between each granny cluster. And that's how it grows faster, and it grows bigger and bigger and bigger as well. Just because we are working in those spaces between the granny clusters. The increase is very, very easy to follow. All right, and I'll catch you when I'm done with both sides. Once I reached the width of the sleeve I wanted, I stopped there and I joined my top of the shoulder, and I'll show you how. And then when I started decreasing for the sleeve, I actually did a round of just regular granny clusters, which are 3 double crochets. And then for the next 4 rows after that last row, I did 4 rows of clusters of 3 double crochets and 2 double crochets. I alternated them all around, 3, 2, 3, 2, which made my sleeve get smaller and smaller for that row and made a smooth transition here. After those 4 rows, I switched to clusters of only 2 double crochets for another 8 rows, and this was getting closer to the length of my arm. And then at the end, I just did front post and back post double crochets. So here's my other half that I'm still working. So I fold my shoulder here, grab just the corresponding loops of each side, and it is the back loop only, and then I just pull it through each other. I grab the one from the back and I pull it here through the other one, then I pick the next loop from my side and then I pull it through that loop on my hook, then I pick the opposite loop from the opposite side and I pull it through my loop on my hook, then I pick one from my side and I pull it through the loop on my hook, and I just alternate sides, picking the back loop from each stitch and just pulling them through each other. Without making it too tight, it just lays flat very well. And when I did reach the end, I just saved my stitch there with a safety pin so I can incorporate it in the next round when I get there. And this is how I did the shoulder. Then I added my new yarn for the sleeve, and I did my sleeve. So now that half of the cardigan is still small for my bust area, I need to get it to 46 inches circumference for the whole cardigan to fit me. So I need to make half of the cardigan here about 23 inches. So half of it needs to be about 12 inches. And so far I have only 8 inches. So if I go for another 3 inches, I think it will be okay till 11 or 12, depends how much oversized I want it to be or to lay flat. So I will add my next ball of yarn because I finished one for the sleeve and that first half. I'll just add it here from the top. For a couple of rows, I will just go back and forth so I have a neck opening. And when I get to the corner, I'll just do my corner the regular way. So I'll be going back and forth all around the cardigan without connecting the top. I will get here at the corner and do a cluster of double crochets. And then before I do the last double crochet, actually, I will grab my stitch here that I used to connect the shoulder. So I'll grab that one and I'll go through my space as well. And I'll draw my loop. So this way it's very, very safe there. Turn around. Do a chain 2 and then I'll go into the next space and do my regular cluster there. Then next time I go back here, I'll do my cluster in that space. All right, so this will be for this side till I reach my desired width of the front of my cardigan. So I started with the hexagons, which start from the armpit. And then when I reached 9 inches of my sleeves when folded, I stopped. That's usually how big the sleeve is. And I'll leave a table with the circumference for the sleeves here in the corner of the video. So pretty much I go by that chart. So it ended right about here. So almost halfway of my sleeve was done before I started tapering it down. And then I went and I did the second sleeve. Once I was done with the sleeves, I came back to the front and the back. I added my yarn from the top and going back and forth only. So you can see from the back, I did only 3 rows of going back and forth and still increasing here at the corners, but not increasing at the top. So my increases, they end up over here right before I start connecting my back and front from the shoulder. So doing those 3 rows of just back and forth gave me a little bit of length and a little bit of width here. So when I did the same thing on the other side, at the last row, I connected to the other side. So I was just doing granny clusters, and then at the end of the granny clusters, I just went into the space of the opposite side between the spaces of the granny clusters, and I just did a single crochet there and continued doing granny clusters and just attaching that granny cluster to the other side. Once I was done with the back, I continued with the collar because I was running out of yarn and I wanted to make sure I use everything, and I had a collar before I finished my yarn. This is how much yarn I have left from 5 skeins like that. When I did the collar, I went 2 double crochets into each stitch so I can have the base. So for the collar, I crocheted 5 rows of double crochets, and the last row I just did slip stitches. Once I was done with the collar, I did 2 double crochets into each stitch only for the front. I didn't do ribbing because I did not have enough yarn, and I knew that it will not going to be enough for another row. So after this row was done, I did the same thing on the other side, and it's just a row of double crochets, and that's all. Then I went to the bottom, and starting from this corner all the way to the other side, I did 1 row of half double crochets. I did not have much yarn left, and that's what I thought will have enough for that only. And then once I was done with that 1 row of half double crochets as the bottom edge here, I went slip stitching all around. I just went all around the front and the bottom. I already had slip stitches on the collar, so I did not go there. And that was it. If I wanted to make it a little bit longer, I would have just added rows here, just back and forth going of granny clusters, and that would have made it longer. If I wanted wider as well for larger size, I would have added just a little bit of a wider part before adding the edging, or make that edging maybe 2 or 3 rows more. All right, so that's how I did my jacket, my cardigan. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Subscribe to the channel to keep me motivated. Don't forget to watch the next video that's coming up. Happy crocheting, and I'll catch you in the next one.